phenomenon that has picked up a lot of steam in the last decade is the shirt lifter way of life. Some of you may refer to these types of people as faggots or gay. This time I will refrain from displaying any explicit images. I am still trying to remove those disturbing images from my psyche from an earlier video. How should I begin? I suppose one should go into a little detail about my family background. I am of Jamaican and Brazilian descent. As a result of this, homosexuality was a subject that was not broached voluntarily. It was avoided like the proverbial plague. The subject came up one evening when my uncles and I were preparing to watch our weekly scheduled kung fu movie. It was total happenstance that an episode of In Sickness and in Health was being broadcast. One of the characters was an effeminate black man mockingly referred to by the lead character as Marigold. Upon seeing how this man was behaving, my uncles weren't angry, they were irate. I won't repeat the patois profanity used, but one of them said words to the effect of, "If I find out one of me pickney dum's a batty boy, I'ma disown his race. This is fuckery, man." Some might think he was being overly dramatic. Let's just say, Jamaicans, especially of the older generation, are vehemently opposed to this type of sexuality. I have to admit, years later, I still cringe at the mere sight of two men holding hands, or worse yet, kissing. In my view, I find people of the Caucasian persuasion far more tolerant of such practices or types of humour involving comedy of a gay slant. I've had people say to me, "You're uncomfortable with your sexuality." I would say, I'm not comfortable with two men of the same sex indulging in that. As a man who appreciates the female form, being comfortable with two men sodomizing each other or dressing up in female-type clothes goes against what is natural to a person that is heterosexual. I'm going to do my damnedest to give things associated with homosexuality a wide berth. However, it can be exceedingly difficult, especially when these shenanigans are plastered left, right, and centre. The media, fashion, and entertainment industries have gone to great lengths in gradually conditioning or desensitizing the public towards homosexuality. First, it was introduced as flamboyant characters on TV such as Geraldine, or characters seen in the show Are You Being Served? A standout character in that show happened to be the gay character played by John Inman. Gays were later then promoted as amusing in additional shows like Will and Grace, and we can also include Gimme Gimme Gimme. We can find additional examples of the gay agenda in video games, movies, and pop music. See the early 80s group Culture Club, or a more recent group from Russia called Tattoo. The only guaranteed safe haven from this is in my home. There I can determine what is displayed. I grew up in Clapton, Hackney to be precise. Back in the day, if you happened to be gay, you'd be wise to keep it as secret as humanly possible. If you wore pink, you'd be made fun of. If you had a man purse or female-looking bag, you'd be chastised until you got shot of the offending article. If you were obviously gay, expect to be struck in the face. Nowadays, we have men walking around in pink footwear, eyeliner, lipstick, female hairstyles, testicle-crushingly tight jeans, and sometimes men wearing their trousers so low they resemble a bloody accordion. This fashion statement, or should I say infection, has spread as far as Japan and France. It's a shame that these people that wear their trousers in this manner do not realize how ridiculous it looks. If they did, they would wear their trousers correctly. For the ignorant amongst you, here's a revelation. This so-called fashion statement stemmed from American prison culture. It was done by certain male inmates to signify sexual availability to other dominant inmates. Also, the prison establishment decided the removal of belts in order to prevent from male inmates hanging themselves. Now, walking around town, you will come across certain people whose gender is ambiguous. It may require 2 or more glances before you can ascertain whether they are male or female. Now, I am not one for calling another person ugly, but if Whoopi Goldberg and Tracy Morgan had a child together, that child would still be more aesthetically pleasing than this furless primate in a wig. Talk about confused about gender. If you think this sorry Negro is a convincing female, then I have some magic beans to sell you. I suspect he went gay because he was unsuccessful with women, and now they stick dicks in his face because he sucks. I digress. The moment someone objects to this insanity, certain women and self-appointed politically correct officers are quick to defend these gays. Some of these people include the sisters, the very same sisters who will later complain about the lack of men in their area who are attracted to women. Then there are those who will hurl insults at you like homophobe, ignorant, bigot, and my favorite, Nazi. If I were a Nazi, I would find like-minded people, then we would round up all gays, and then we would give them the gas oven treatment. Bear in mind, you should not exceed these euphemisms that these people throw at you. It's a ploy to embarrass or shut down a conversation, just as the term conspiracy theorist is used. Previously, I subscribed to the belief of live and let live as far as gay people were concerned. However, this is something that is not easily accomplished, especially if the agenda is being forced on people who want no part of it. To quote my father, I have had conversations with some gay men on why they opt for sleeping with men. Some seemed like reasonable chaps, others were angry, and in some cases, very aggressive. Some would even go as far as to say they are bothered by heterosexual couples displaying affection in public. In fact, they think 2 people of the same sex having intercourse is normal, and that's where we'll have to agree to disagree. The tragic thing is their numbers are growing, and they are getting rather bold with it. Proud to be gay? A friend of mine once said to me, I don't know what they are so proud of, since they are contributing towards the end of humanity. A few months ago, I was walking around Tokyo when I needed to use a public convenience. There were 2 men standing behind me while I was washing my hands. To my chagrin, one of them reached around and started touching my hands. Outraged, I told him to back away. His friend then said, "Oh, don't be like that." And that's when I snapped and proceeded to give him a good hiding. The other Nancy boy then ran out of the room with his arms flailing around. One doesn't have a propensity for being violent, but there are times when you are left with no recourse. The word bitch has become gender neutral. It now applies to some men whose style is more feminine or bitchy than many females. Let's be honest with ourselves. Men lusting after other men is not a sexual orientation that corresponds with normality. An anal canal is designed for passing feces downwards, not for having foreign objects rammed up it. These people are like vampires, in the sense that they are going about converting, or should that be turning, as many people as possible to make the abnormal seem normal. Gay people want others to be tolerant of their behavior, but we haven't seen much of that demonstrated by them lately. They will often resort to name-calling and, in some cases, violence. See the reports about the parade held in Seattle earlier this month. Yes, these timid people set upon a preacher who was expressing his First Amendment right. I wager these people of gay persuasion will not be charged with a hate crime. The long and short of it is, homosexuality is a mental disorder. Can I substantiate such a statement? Indeed I can. Any self-respecting psychiatrist will be able to deduce the highly probable root cause of it. More often than not, that person was traumatized in their earlier years. The 1972 edition of the DSM-4 handbook clearly delineates homosexuality as a mental disorder. Politics and skullduggery played a major part in having it omitted from subsequent editions. I shouldn't wonder. At the time of making this video, there was talk of having pedophilia removed also. If that comes to pass, children will be losing their innocence much earlier at the hands of predators. And that brings us to the NAMBLA Association, and this is a lobbyist group of people who are trying to get the age of consent abolished. They are partial to having what former United States President Bill Clinton would refer to as inappropriate contact between adults and minors. You now have the current president, Barack Obama, in Africa promoting gay relationships. Rightfully so, the president of Senegal and the people have torpedoed Obama's recommendations. And there's me thinking that he had more pressing issues to address in his supposed hometown of Chicago and the United States. This trip no doubt cost the American taxpayer a pretty penny. The one thing you cannot deny about gays is they are organized, far more in fact than the American Negro. They have pooled their resources and presented an agenda to politicians. It would appear that they have latched onto the civil rights movement. Unbelievably, they have likened their struggle, if you'll excuse the pun, with a straight face to the atrocities visited upon black people in America. Now they've gotten traction, gays in some instances have more protection or rights than straight people. We now have gay marriages and a myriad of other facilities set up for them. I think heterosexual people should push for a straight Pride Month and perhaps a few parades to boot. Homosexuality, more particularly in the black community alongside the high abortion rate, is a form of eugenics. Margaret Sanger of Planned Parenthood would be very proud of the current state of the stifling of the population growth. To the layman, the more abortions, sterilizations, and homosexuals there are, the more the global birth rate declines. Those of you still in doubt can take the time to look it up in sequestered places. I'm not here to convince you. This video is to inform those that have not noticed the incremental degradation of society. To add credence to my case, here is a video I saw recently while in Japan. Some people would refer to homosexuality as a death style as opposed to a lifestyle. So as a result of that, I'm going to leave you with a positive image, which is the Egyptian symbol of life.